If you have walked into a commercial equipment dealership or a big box store recently, you have probably noticed a quiet, patronizing shift in how lawnmowers are sold. The sales floor is lined with sleek, futuristic-looking machines covered in green plastic shrouds, digital dashboard displays, and battery charge indicators. The marketing brochures tell you that the old way of doing things is dead. They tell you that a simple, gasoline-powered small engine is noisy, dirty, and obsolete, and that the modern, smart connected, battery-powered alternative is the only logical choice for the modern world. They want you to believe that wanting a machine you can actually maintain yourself is just stubborn nostalgia. But if you look closely at the trailers of the most successful, veteran landscapers in this country, the guys who have been cutting grass for 30 years to feed their families, you will see a completely different reality. They aren't buying the new $2,000 electronic mowers. Instead, they are quietly hunting down, buying, and hoarding 30-year-old mechanical lawn mowers from the 1990s. They aren't doing this because they are cheap, and they aren't doing it because they are stuck in the past. They are doing it because they realize that the industry has set a trap, and they know that the only way to keep their businesses and their independence alive is to hold on to the last generation of machines that were built to be owned, not rented. For decades, the American tradesman and the DIY mechanic shared a basic, unwritten agreement with the companies that built their tools. You paid your hard-earned money for a machine. In return, you received full ownership of that machine. That ownership came with a fundamental right, the right to repair. If a carburetor clogged, you took it apart on your workbench, cleaned out the brass jets with a thin wire, put it back together with a $5 gasket, and went back to work. If a spindle bearing wore out, you pumped some grease into it or tapped in a new $10 bearing. You were in control of your own tools, and your survival depended on your own mechanical competence. Over the last 15 years, that agreement was systematically broken. Under the guise of environmental compliance and modern convenience, manufacturers and regulators have stripped away your mechanical independence. It started with the EPA Phase 3 small engine emission standards. To meet these highly restrictive government mandates, engine manufacturers like Briggs and Stratton, Kohler, and Toro were forced to redesign the heart of the small engine, the carburetor. Historically, a carburetor was a beautifully simple mechanical device made of solid brass and cast aluminum. It had adjustable screws that allowed you to tune the fuel-to-air ratio as the engine aged or as the air temperature changed. It was built to be rebuilt. The new regulations outlawed these adjustable carburetors. Manufacturers had to replace them with sealed, non-adjustable plastic units. They removed the adjustment screws entirely and pressed in tiny, non-removable plastic caps. The fuel jets inside were shrunk to microscopic sizes to make the engine run as lean as possible. The consequence of this design is planned obsolescence. Because the jets are so incredibly small and unadjustable, the slightest speck of dust or a single drop of stale ethanol-blended gasoline will completely clog the carburetor. And because the unit is chemically sealed and made of cheap plastic, you cannot take it apart to clean it. If it clogs, the engine is instantly bricked. Your only option is to throw the entire carburetor in the trash and buy a new one from the manufacturer. They took a 20-minute, 50-cent maintenance job and turned it into an expensive, disposable cycle of waste. They engineered your hands and your intelligence out of the equation because they assumed you were too passive to notice. This design philosophy was then paired with the aggressive push for zero-emission, battery-powered commercial equipment. In states like California, the sale of small gas-powered engines has been actively banned. Landscapers are being forced to transition their commercial fleets to massive lithium battery setups. But on a hot, 95-degree July afternoon, the physical reality of the job crashes directly into the marketing fantasy. Commercial landscapers are discovering that these battery-powered decks suffer from thermal shutdown. When the sun is beating down and the grass is thick, the battery cells overheat and the machine simply shuts off to protect its circuitry, leaving the crew stranded in the middle of a customer's lawn. And when those battery banks inevitably degrade and fail after a few seasons of heavy use, the owner is hit with a replacement bill that often exceeds $1,000, nearly the cost of a brand new gasoline mower. The industry didn't replace gasoline with a better technology. They replaced a permanent repairable asset with a temporary, highly expensive subscription model. They created a gridlock system where you are no longer a craftsman maintaining your own tools, you are just a tenant leasing the right to work from a manufacturer. This is why the veteran tradesman is fighting back. He knows that the analog machines of the 1990s weren't primitive. They represented the absolute peak of mechanical reliability and human-scale engineering. And that is why there is a quiet, highly competitive market running on Facebook Marketplace and local farm auctions for a very specific list of vintage machines. If you want to protect your own self-reliance, you need to know exactly what these veteran landscapers are looking for. There is a secret list of 4 legendary, overbuilt machines from the 1990s and the early 2000s that are worth more today than the day they rolled off the factory floor. The first machine on the list is the holy grail of walk-behind commercial mowers, the Toro Proline 21, specifically the models featuring the Suzuki 2-cycle engine. To the untrained eye, a 2-cycle push mower looks outdated and loud, but to a commercial landscaper, the Suzuki 2-stroke is a masterpiece of engineering. Because it is a 2-cycle engine, it does not have an oil sump. In a traditional 4-stroke engine, if you mow sideways on a steep 45-degree ditch, the engine oil sloshes to one side, starving the piston and rod of lubrication, which causes the engine to seize and ruin itself. The Suzuki 2-stroke does not care about gravity. It is lubricated by the oil mixed directly into the fuel. You can run this machine completely sideways, upside down, or on the steepest highway embankments all day long, and it will never suffer a single second of oil starvation. Furthermore, the Toro Proline was built on a thick, commercial-grade cast aluminum deck that will never rust or crack. It features a heavy-duty, 3-speed mechanical gear transmission and a physical blade brake clutch. On a modern mower, when you let go of the safety handle to move a branch or empty a bag, the engine instantly dies, forcing you to pull the starter cord again and again. The Proline's blade brake clutch allows the engine to keep idling safely, while only the cutting blade stops spinning. It was built to work with the operator, not against him. The second machine on the list is the ultimate residential tank, the John Deere 14 SB walk-behind mower equipped with the Kawasaki 5-horsepower overhead valve engine. During the 1990s, John Deere refused to compromise on their walk-behind line. Instead of building a cheap consumer engine, they sourced the FC150V engine directly from Kawasaki. This is a cast iron sleeved, industrial grade engine featuring an actual spin-on oil filter, a feature completely unheard of on modern push mowers. It utilized a heavy-duty, Japanese-made Mikuni carburetor with fully adjustable high and low-speed fuel circuits. The deck of the 14 SB is a thick, structurally reinforced cast aluminum housing, paired with a 5-speed mechanical gear drive transmission. If you find one of these machines today, even if it has sat behind a shed for a decade, the repair is simple. You don't need a computer, a software update, or a dealer key. You just clean the Mikuni carburetor, change the spark plug, pour in fresh fuel, and that Kawasaki engine will roar back to life, running with a smooth, quiet idle that modern plastic engines simply cannot replicate. The third machine is the commercial workhorse of the landscaping industry. The Scag 32-inch or 36-inch walk-behind mower, powered by the Kohler Command or the Kawasaki flathead engine. The Scag walk-behind is not a sleek, styled piece of consumer art. It is a brutal, heavy, welded structural steel frame. There is no stamped tin on this machine. The cutter deck is fabricated from thick plate steel designed to take decades of daily abuse. The spindles that hold the cutting blades do not use cheap, sealed aluminum housings that shatter the moment you strike a hidden tree root or a stone. Instead, Scag used heavy, greasable cast iron spindle housings containing tapered roller bearings. If the bearings wear out after 5,000 hours of work, you simply tap them out and press in new ones. The drive system is entirely mechanical. It uses dual belts, heavy-duty Ogura electromagnetic clutches, and physical adjustment linkages. There are no electronic control modules, no wiring harnesses to corrode, and no safety sensors to glitch out in the rain. It is a machine stripped down to its absolute mechanical essence, built to do one thing: cut grass reliably for 30 years. The fourth and final machine on the list is the legendary leaf vacuum, the Lawnboy Duraforce commercial walk-behind, featuring the 6.5 horsepower two-stroke engine. Known to enthusiasts by their iconic orange fuel tanks, the late 90s Duraforce mowers are famous for their unmatched raw power and velocity. Lawnboy's staggered wheel cast deck design creates a unique, highly efficient chamber under the mower because the two-stroke Duraforce engine produces an immense amount of rotational torque. The blade spins with incredible speed, creating a massive vacuum-like updraft. If you are trying to bag wet, matted autumn leaves or thick, overgrown spring grass, a modern emission-restricted mower will clog its chute within 30 seconds. The Duraforce vacuums the grass clean, mulching and packing bags tighter than any other walk-behind ever designed. It is light as a feather because of its simple design, and because there are no valves, push rods, or cams to adjust, the mechanical maintenance is virtually zero. When you see a landscaper or a DIY mechanic cleaning up one of these vintage machines, you are watching a quiet act of rebellion. They are proving that the progress we were promised by the manufacturing monopolies was a lie. We were told that things had to become more complex to become better. We were told that we needed to hand over control of our machinery to dealership software and computerized sensors. But machines from the 1990s prove that the peak of human utility has already been reached. A simple, beautifully engineered mechanical tool is superior to a complex, disposable digital appliance in every single way that actually matters to the working man. It lasts longer, it costs less to operate, it is more reliable under pressure, and most importantly, it respects your right to own it. The next time you see one of these classic machines sitting in a garage, at an estate sale, or on the back of a working trailer, do not look at it as a relic of a bygone era. Look at it for what it truly is: a monument to a time when things were built to last, and a tool of pure mechanical independence that they can never regulate out of your hands.